Imagine a life driven not by worldly desires but by an unquenchable thirst for the divine, a life that transcended barriers of caste, creed, and religion. This is the extraordinary journey of Ramakrishna, the spiritual beacon who shaped the soul of modern India and profoundly influenced Swami Vivekananda. But who was this enigmatic figure, and what path led him to become the God-man of his era? Let's dive into the incredible life of Ramakrishna and uncover the lessons that would go on to transform his greatest disciple, Swami Vivekananda. In this episode, we explore the early life and spiritual awakening of Ramakrishna, the saint whose divine presence shaped the path of one of India's greatest spiritual leaders. From humble beginnings in a small village to becoming a spiritual powerhouse, Ramakrishna's journey is filled with devotion, sacrifice, and an unwavering quest for truth. Let's uncover the inspiring story of Ramakrishna, at whose feet Swami Vivekananda discovered his true calling. Chapter 2. At the feet of Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna, the God-man of modern times, was born on February 18, 1836, in the little village of Kamapukur, in the district of Hooghly in Bengal. How different were his upbringing and the environment of his boyhood from those of Narendranath, who was to become later the bearer and interpreter of his message. Ramakrishna's parents, belonging to the Brahmin caste, were poor, pious, and devoted to the traditions of their ancient religion. Full of fun and innocent joys, the fair child, with flowing hair and a sweet musical voice, grew up in a simple countryside of rice fields, cows, and banyan and mango trees. He was apathetic about his studies and remained practically illiterate all his life, but his innate spiritual tendencies found expression through devotional songs and the company of wandering monks, who fired his boyish imagination by the stories of their spiritual adventures. At the age of 6, he experienced a spiritual ecstasy while watching a flight of snow-white cranes against a black sky overcast with rain clouds. He began to go into trances as he meditated on gods and goddesses. His father's death, which left the family in straitened circumstances, deepened his spiritual mood. And so, though at the age of 16 he joined his brother in Calcutta, he refused to go on there with his studies. For, as he remarked, he was simply not interested in an education whose sole purpose was to earn mere bread and butter. He felt a deep longing for the realization of God. The floodgate of Ramakrishna's emotion burst all bounds when he took up the duties of a priest in the Kali temple of Dakshineshwar, where the deity was worshipped as the Divine Mother. Ignorant of the scriptures and of the intricacies of ritual, Ramakrishna poured his whole soul into prayer, which often took the form of devotional songs. Food, sleep, and other physical needs were completely forgotten in an all-consuming passion for the vision of God. His nights were spent in contemplation in the neighboring woods. Doubt sometimes alternated with hope, but an inner certainty and the testimony of the illumined saints sustained him in his darkest hours of despair. Formal worship, or the mere sight of the image, did not satisfy his inquiring mind, for he felt that a figure of stone could not be the bestower of peace and immortality. Behind the image there must be the real spirit, which he was determined to behold. This was not an easy task. For a long time the spirit played with him a teasing game of hide and seek, but at last it yielded to the demand of love on the part of the young devotee. When he felt the direct presence of the Divine Mother, Ramakrishna dropped unconscious to the floor, experiencing within himself a constant flow of bliss. This foretaste of what was to follow made him God-intoxicated and whetted his appetite for further experience. He wished to see God uninterruptedly, with eyes open as well as closed. He therefore abandoned himself recklessly to the practice of various extreme spiritual disciplines. To remove from his mind the least trace of the arrogance of his high Brahmin caste, he used to clean stealthily the latrine at a pariah's house. Through a stern process of discrimination, he effaced all sense of distinction between gold and clay. Purity became the very breath of his nostrils, and he could not regard a woman, even in a dream, in any other way except as his own mother or the mother of the universe. For years, his eyelids did not touch each other in sleep, and he was finally thought to be insane. Indeed, the stress of his spiritual practice soon told upon Ramakrishna's delicate body, and he returned to Kamapukur to recover his health. His relatives and old friends saw a marked change in his nature, for the gay boy had been transformed into a contemplative young man whose vision was directed to something on a distant horizon. His mother proposed marriage, and finding in this the will of the Divine Mother, Ramakrishna consented. He even indicated where the girl was to be found, namely in the village of Jairambati, only 3 miles away. Here lived the little Saradamani, a girl of 5, who was in many respects very different from the other girls of her age. The child would pray to God to make her character as fragrant as the tuberose. Later, at Dakshineshwar, she prayed to God to make her purer than the full moon, which, pure as it was, showed a few dark spots. The marriage was celebrated, and Ramakrishna, participating, regarded the whole affair as fun or a new excitement. In a short while he came back to Dakshineshwar and plunged again into the stormy life of religious experimentation. His mother, his newly married wife, and his relatives were forgotten. Now, however, his spiritual disciplines took a new course. He wanted to follow the time-honored paths of the Hindu religion under the guidance of competent teachers, and they came to him one by one, nobody knew from where. One was a woman, under whom he practiced the disciplines of Tantra and of the Vaishnava faith, and achieved the highest result in an incredibly short time. It was she who diagnosed his physical malady as the manifestation of deep spiritual emotions and described his apparent insanity as the result of an agonizing love for God. He was immediately relieved. It was she, moreover, who first declared him to be an incarnation of God, and she proved her statement before an assembly of theologians by scriptural evidence. Under another teacher, the monk Jatadhari, Ramakrishna delved into the mysteries of Rama worship and experienced Rama's visible presence. Further, he communed with God through the divine relationships of father, mother, friend, and beloved. By an austere sannyasin named Totapuri, he was initiated into the monastic life, and in 3 days he realized his complete oneness with Brahman, the undifferentiated Absolute, which is the culmination of man's spiritual endeavor. Totapuri himself had had to struggle for 40 years to realize this identity. Ramakrishna turned next to Christianity and Islam to practice their respective disciplines, and he attained the same result that he had attained through Hinduism. He was thereby convinced that these too were ways to the realization of God consciousness. Finally, he worshipped his own wife, who in the meantime had grown into a young woman of 19, as the manifestation of the Divine Mother of the universe, and surrendered at her feet the fruit of his past spiritual practices. After this, he left behind all his disciplines and struggles. For according to Hindu tradition, when the normal relationship between husband and wife, which is the strongest foundation of the worldly life, has been transcended, and a man sees in his wife the divine presence, he then sees God everywhere in the universe. This is the culmination of the spiritual life. Ramakrishna himself was now convinced of his divine mission on earth, and came to know that through him the Divine Mother would found a new religious order, comprising those who would accept the doctrine of the universal religion which he had experienced. It was further revealed to him that anyone who had prayed to God sincerely even once, as well as those who were passing through their final birth on earth, would accept him as their spiritual ideal and mold their lives according to his universal teaching. The people around him were bewildered to see this transformation of a man whom they had ridiculed only a short while ago as insane. The young priest had become God's devotee, the devotee an ascetic, the ascetic a saint, the saint a man of realization, and the man of realization a new prophet. Like the full-blown blossom-attracting bees, Ramakrishna drew to him men and women of differing faith, intelligence, and social position. He gave generously to all from the inexhaustible storehouse of divine wisdom. and everyone felt uplifted in his presence. But the master himself was not completely satisfied. He longed for young souls yet untouched by the world who would renounce everything for the realization of God and the service of humanity. He was literally consumed with this longing. The talk of worldly people was tasteless to him. He often compared such people to a mixture of milk and water, with the latter preponderating, and said that he had become weary of trying to prepare thick milk from the mixture. Evenings, when his anguish reached its limit, he would climb the roof of a building near the temple and cry at the top of his voice, "Come, my boys. Oh, where are you all? I cannot bear to live without you." A mother could not feel more intensely for her beloved children, a friend for his dearest friend, or a lover for her sweetheart. As we continue our journey through the life of Swami Vivekananda, we are approaching a turning point. A moment that would shape not just the life of young Narendranath, but the destiny of modern spirituality. In our next episode, we will witness the profound first meeting between Narendra and Sri Ramakrishna, a meeting that would spark a revolution in thought and spiritual practice. Be sure to join us as we delve into this incredible encounter and see how the lives of these two remarkable souls were forever intertwined. Thank you for listening till the end. Please subscribe, turn on the notifications, like, comment, and share with your friends. This will help more listeners to discover our channel and content.